The war had lasted 30 years, 30 long, bloody years of fire and death across 1,000 worlds. Humanity had fought against the galactic hegemony, an empire of alien races that had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Everyone thought humans would lose. Everyone thought the small blue planet called Earth would burn like so many others before it. But humans did not lose. Against all odds, against ships that could crack planets and weapons that could erase cities in seconds, humanity fought back. They were stubborn. They were angry. They refused to die. And in the end, the great galactic hegemony knelt before the species they had once called primitive. The peace treaty was signed on the hegemony, a planet of crystal towers and floating gardens. Thousands of alien nobles gathered in the Grand Throne Hall to witness the ceremony. The hall was massive, with ceilings so high that clouds formed inside. Light from 3 suns poured through windows made of living gemstones. And in the center of it all stood one human soldier. His name was Park. He was not tall. He was not handsome. His face carried scars from battles that had no names, and his eyes held the weight of friends he had buried in cold space. He wore his military uniform, the same one he had worn during the Siege of Titan, where he had held a defensive position for 11 days against an enemy force of 50,000. Alone. That siege had made him a legend. Songs were sung about him on Earth. Children played games pretending to be him, but did not feel like a legend. He felt tired. He felt old, even though he was only 34 years old. The hegemony emperor sat on his throne above everyone else. He was a creature of crystalline flesh, his body shifting between solid and light. He was ancient, older than human civilization itself. And today, he was defeated. "Human," the emperor spoke, his voice echoing through the hall like thunder. "You have earned the victor's right. This is our oldest law. The one who defeats us may claim any reward from our empire. Name your desire and it shall be granted." The alien nobles whispered among themselves. What would the human ask for? Planets, wealth, technology, the secrets of immortality. Looked around the hall. He saw thousands of alien faces staring at him with hatred, with fear, with curiosity. He saw human diplomats behind him, their eyes full of expectation. They had already prepared a list of demands: territory, resources, military secrets, but had not fought for 30 years for territory. "I want to see the princesses," he said. The hall fell silent. Even the emperor seemed surprised. "The princesses," the emperor repeated. "Yes, I heard the hegemony emperor has 7 daughters. I want to see them." Whispers exploded through the crowd. This was unexpected. This was unusual, but it was not forbidden. The emperor raised one crystalline hand and servants rushed to obey. Minutes later, 7 figures walked into the throne hall. They were beautiful in the way that stars are beautiful. Their skin glowed with soft light, and their eyes held colors that did not exist on Earth. They moved with grace that made even walking look like dancing. The first princess was tall and proud. Her name was Sora, and she commanded the hegemony's largest battle fleet. She looked at like he was an insect. The second princess was wrapped in robes of living fire. She controlled the trade routes of 100 systems. The third princess had eyes that saw the future. She had predicted the war would end this way. The fourth princess was a warrior, her body covered in battle scars that she wore with pride. The fifth princess was a scientist who had created weapons that had killed millions of humans. The sixth princess was a diplomat, skilled in lies and manipulation. They stood in a line, each one more powerful than the last. Each one a prize that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The human diplomats behind were already calculating which princess would bring the most benefit. Then noticed the seventh princess. She stood at the very end of the line, almost hidden behind her sisters. She was small, much smaller than the others. Her skin glowed dimly, like a candle about to go out. She kept her head down, and her hands were folded in front of her like she was trying to disappear. That one at the end said, "What is her name?" The Emperor's expression did not change, but something flickered in his ancient eyes. "That is my seventh daughter." "Tell me about her." Silence. The other princesses exchanged glances. Some of them smiled cruelly. The nobles in the crowd began to whisper and laugh quietly. The Emperor spoke slowly. "Was born without the gift. She has no psionic powers. She cannot command ships or see the future. She is physically weak by our standards. She holds no political power and commands no armies. She is—" He paused. "She is nothing." The laughter grew louder, kept her head down but could see her shoulders trembling. She had heard these words before. She had heard them her entire life. "I choose her," said. The laughter stopped. "What?" the Emperor asked. "I choose her, princess. That is my reward." The throne hall erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted in confusion. The human diplomats rushed forward, grabbing S's arm. "Sergeant Park, what are you doing?" Admiral hissed. "We need someone with power, someone with connections. That princess is worthless." "I made my choice," said calmly. "This is insane. Think about what you are giving up. Princess Sora controls a fleet of 10,000 ships. Princess." "I made my choice." The Admiral stepped back. There was something in his eyes that reminded everyone why this man had survived the siege of Titan. It was not anger. It was not madness. It was absolute certainty. The Emperor raised his hand, and the hall fell silent again. "Human," he said, "you understand what you are asking for. You could have anything in my empire, wealth beyond imagination, power beyond measure, and you choose her." "Yes." "Why?" Looked at, she had finally raised her head. Her eyes met his, and he saw something there that he recognized. Something familiar. It was the look of someone who had been told they were worthless every day of their life. The look of someone who had been broken down by those who should have protected them. The look of someone who was still standing despite everything. He knew that look. He had seen it in the mirror for most of his childhood. "Because I want to," he said simply. The Emperor studied him for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Very well, the victor's right is absolute. Princess now belongs to you. Take her, human, take our shame and our disgrace. We will not miss her." Flinched at her father's words, walked toward her, and the crowd parted like water. When he reached her, he stopped. "Are you okay with this?" he asked quietly. She looked up at him with confusion. No one had ever asked her that question before. No one had ever cared what she wanted. "I do not understand," she whispered. "I am asking if you want to come with me. I will not force you." Her eyes widened. She looked back at her family, at her sisters who had always mocked her, at her father who had always been ashamed of her. "Yes," she said, "I will come with you." Nodded. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the hall. He removed his military jacket and placed it around his shoulders. It was a gesture of protection, a gesture of respect. "Then let us go," he said. They walked out of the throne hall together, leaving behind an empire that had never valued her, and a galaxy that was already laughing at his choice. Neither of them looked back. The news spread faster than light itself. Within hours, every corner of the galaxy knew what the human war hero had done. They called it the biggest joke in the history of both species. On Earth, people gathered around screens in confusion. They had expected their champion to bring home something valuable, technology that could advance human civilization by centuries, territory that could give their crowded planet room to breathe. Instead, he brought home a princess that even her own people called worthless. The headlines were brutal. War hero throws away victory. Humanity's greatest soldier makes humanity's biggest mistake. The withered star, what did Sergeant Park see that we cannot? That last headline was different from the others. It was written by a young journalist named Han, who would later become famous for her coverage of alien affairs. But at the time, no one paid attention to her question. Everyone was too busy laughing. On the hegemony side, the reaction was even worse. Princess Sara, the eldest daughter, addressed the imperial court with cold fury in her eyes. "The human has insulted us," she declared. "He was offered the finest treasures of our empire, and he chose the one thing we would have thrown away for free. He has mocked us. He has mocked our entire civilization." The nobles nodded in agreement. They did not see choice as an insult to them. They did not care about feelings. All they saw was a human who had somehow turned victory into an insult, but did not care about their opinions. He was on a transport ship heading back to Earth, sitting in a small room with a cup of coffee in his hands. The ship was quiet. Most of the human delegation avoided him now. They thought he had gone crazy. Sat on the other side of the room. She had not spoken since they left the throne hall. She sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on the floor. The military jacket had given her was still wrapped around her shoulders. She was waiting, waiting for the cruelty to begin, waiting for him to reveal his true intentions. No one had ever been kind to her without wanting something in return. That was the rule of the universe. That was what she had learned in her 200 years of life. Days passed, brought her meals 3 times a day. He knocked before entering. He never raised his voice. He gave her a private cabin with a lock on the door and told her she could use it whenever she wanted. On the 3rd day, could not stand it anymore. "Why?" she asked. Looked up from his. He was reading reports from Earth, messages from old friends who wanted to know if he had lost his mind. "Why what?" he asked. "Why did you choose me? What do you want from me? What is your plan?" He put down the and thought for a moment. "I do not have a plan," he said. "That is a lie. Everyone has a plan. Everyone wants something. My sisters wanted my father's approval. The nobles wanted power. The soldiers wanted glory. What do you want?" Was quiet for a long time. Then he stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars streamed past like rivers of light. They were traveling faster than the speed of light, bending space and time around them. "When I was young," he said slowly, "I lived in a place called, it was a slum, dirty, dangerous. My family had 7 children and I was the smallest, the weakest. My brothers were tall and strong. They became factory workers, soldiers, criminals. My sisters were beautiful and clever. They found ways to escape." He paused. "But I was small, sickly, useless. My father said I would never amount to anything. My mother looked at me with pity in her eyes. My brothers beat me because I was an easy target. My teachers ignored me because they thought I was a waste of their time." Listened, she did not interrupt. "When the war started, I joined the military because I had no other choice. They did not want me either. They put me in the most dangerous positions because they expected me to die. But I did not die. I survived. Again and again and again. And eventually they started to notice." He turned to face her. "Do you know why I survived the siege of Titan? Everyone thinks it was because I am a great warrior, because I am strong, because I am brave. But that is not true. I survived because I had spent my entire life being underestimated. I knew how to fight when no one believed in me. I knew how to keep going when everyone expected me to fall." He looked at with eyes that had seen too much death. "When I saw you in that throne hall, standing at the end of the line while your sisters shone like stars, I recognized you. I saw myself. I saw someone who had been told they were worthless every day of their life. Someone who had been ignored and mocked and pushed aside." Felt something strange in her chest. It was warm and painful at the same time. "But I also saw something else," continued. "I saw someone who was still standing. After 200 years of being treated like garbage, you were still alive. You had not broken. You had not given up. Do you know how strong you have to be to survive that?" Opened her mouth, but no words came out. Your family thinks you are weak because you do not have psionic powers, but I have seen powerful beings die in seconds. I have seen mighty warriors break down and cry for their mothers. Power means nothing if you cannot endure. And you, princess, have endured more than any of your sisters ever will. He sat down across from her. I did not choose you because I pity you. I did not choose you because I wanted to insult your empire. I chose you because I see something in you that no one else sees. Something valuable, something real. His eyes were wet. She had never cried in front of anyone before. In her family, crying was weakness. Crying was proof that you were as pathetic as they said. But did not look at her with disgust. He simply handed her a napkin and waited. You are strange, she whispered finally. I know. Humans are strange. I know that too. For the first time in 200 years smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was real. What happens when we reach Earth? She asked. I have a small apartment in Seoul. It is not much, just 2 rooms and a kitchen. You can stay there with me or I can find you somewhere else to live. It is your choice. My choice. Yes, from now on you will make your own choices. No one will tell you what to do. No one will decide your fate for you. You are free. Did not know what to say. Freedom was a concept she had never truly understood. In her world, everyone was bound by duty, by tradition, by the expectations of others. I do not know how to be free, she admitted. Smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was warmth in it. That is okay, I will teach you. The ship continued its journey through the stars. Behind them, 2 empires were laughing at the foolish human soldier and the worthless princess. But inside that small transport ship, something new was beginning. Something that neither empire could understand. Something called hope. His apartment was exactly as he had described. Small, simple, 2 rooms and a kitchen. It sat on the 47th floor of a building in New Seoul, overlooking a city that never slept. Flying cars streamed past the windows at all hours. Neon signs painted the walls in shifting colors. Stood by the window on her first night, watching the human city below. It was so different from the crystal towers of her. Everything here was loud and fast and alive. She could hear music from somewhere nearby. She could smell food cooking in 100 different apartments. She could feel the vibrations of millions of lives happening all around her. It is very noisy, she said. You will get used to it, replied from the kitchen. He was making dinner, something called. He had explained that it was a simple food, nothing special, but it was one of his favorites. Why do you live here? Asked. You are a hero, could you not live in a palace? Laughed, it was a quiet laugh, almost sad. The government offered me many things, a mansion, a private island, servants, guards, but I said no. I did not fight for 30 years to become a prisoner of luxury. I just wanted a quiet place where I could sleep without someone trying to kill me. He set 2 bowls on a small table. The steamed gently, filling the apartment with a warm, spicy smell. Come and eat, he said. Sat across from him. She looked at the bowl with confusion. What is this? Noodles, vegetables, egg, try it. She picked up the chopsticks. Her species did not use such tools. They ate with their hands or not at all. But she had been watching humans on the ship, learning their customs. She mimicked movements and lifted the noodles to her mouth. The taste was strange, hot and salty and unlike anything she had experienced before. Her species did not eat cooked food. They absorbed nutrients through their skin from special pools of liquid light. This was something entirely new. It is interesting, she said carefully. Smiled. You do not have to eat if you do not like it. I can prepare something else. I read that your species absorbs energy differently. You read about my species. Of course, I wanted to make sure you would be comfortable. Stared at him. In her entire life, no one had ever made such an effort for her. Her father had barely learned her name. Her sisters had never cared about her preferences. Yet this human stranger had researched her biology just to make sure she could eat. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked again. "Because kindness costs nothing," he said simply, "and because you deserve it." Over the following weeks, they settled into a routine. Had retired from active service, but he still received a pension from the military. He spent his mornings exercising, his afternoons reading, and his evenings teaching about Earth. In turn, began to discover something about herself, something she had never been allowed to explore before. Without psionic powers, she had been forced to develop other abilities. She had perfect memory. She could recall every conversation, every document, every face she had ever seen. On her, this was useless. The hegemony valued power, not knowledge. But on Earth, she found that humans respected intelligence. She also discovered that she could read people, not through psionics but through observation. She noticed tiny movements in their faces, changes in their breathing, patterns in their words. She could tell when someone was lying. She could sense their emotions before they expressed them. She could predict their actions with surprising accuracy. "How do you do that?" asked one day after she correctly guessed the ending of a mystery drama they were watching together. "I watch," she said. "I listen. When you cannot speak loudly, you learn to hear quietly." Nodded slowly. "That is a powerful skill." "It was not useful in my world. My family did not care about such things." "Your family was foolish." Was silent for a moment, then she smiled. The months passed and their bond grew stronger, taught to cook. Her first attempts were disasters. She burned rice. She added too much salt. She somehow set water on fire which said should have been impossible. But she did not give up. She tried again and again until she could make simple dishes, ate everything she made, even when it was terrible, and thanked her each time. In turn, taught about the hegemony. She knew 47 dialects of the imperial court. She knew the history of alien civilizations that had risen and fallen before humans existed. She knew secrets about trade routes and political alliances that were worth billions. "You carry a library in your head," said one evening. "I carry 200 years of loneliness," she replied. "When no one talks to you, you fill the silence with knowledge." But their peaceful life could not last forever. One night woke up screaming, rushed into his room and found him sitting on his bed, covered in sweat, his hands shaking. His eyes were wild, looking at something she could not see. She called softly. He did not respond. He was trapped in a memory. She could see it in his face. He was back on Titan, back in the siege, surrounded by death. She did not know what to do. Her species did not comfort each other. They did not touch. They did not embrace. But she remembered what had done for her when she was scared on the transport ship. He had stayed with her. He had talked to her. He had made her feel safe. She sat beside him on the bed. She said again, louder this time, "You are not there anymore. You are here. You are safe." Slowly his eyes focused. He looked at her, confused at first, then ashamed. "I am sorry," he muttered. "I did not mean to wake you." "You have nothing to apologize for." "The nightmares, they never stop. I see their faces, my soldiers, my friends. I watched them die one by one and I could not save them." Understood. She did not have nightmares about war, but she had nightmares about her family, about the endless years of mockery and isolation, about the cold emptiness of being invisible. "You are not alone anymore," she said. Looked at her. In the dim light of his room, she could see tears in his eyes. This man who had held a fortress for 11 days. This man who had killed thousands of enemies with his own hands. This man who had become a legend. He was just as broken as she was. "Neither are you," he whispered. Something changed between them that night. They were no longer just two strangers sharing an apartment. They were two survivors holding each other up. But far away in the crystal towers of the hegemony, Princess Sora was watching. She had not forgotten the insult. She had not forgiven. She called her advisors to her chambers. "The human thinks he can take our shame and turn it into triumph," she said coldly. "He thinks he can make into something valuable. He thinks he can mock us and face no consequences." Her advisors bowed low, waiting for her command. "I want them destroyed," Sora declared. "I want the human disgraced and executed. I want dragged back here in chains. I want the entire galaxy to see what happens when you insult the hegemony." She turned to the window, staring at the stars. "Send the shadow blades. Send our best assassins. And make sure no one traces this back to us." The war was over, but a new battle was about to begin. The first assassin came on a Tuesday night. Was washing dishes when he felt it. A change in the air. A shadow that moved wrong. 30 years of war had given him instincts that most people would never understand. He knew the feeling of death approaching. He grabbed a knife from the counter and spun around. The shadow blade appeared from nowhere. It was a creature of darkness and silence, its body shifting like smoke. Its eyes glowed with red fire, and its claws were made of something that could cut through steel. It lunged at him. Moved, his body remembered the old rhythms: dodge, strike, retreat. He was not as fast as he used to be. His joints ached, his muscles screamed, but he was still alive. He drove the kitchen knife into the creature's throat. The shadow blade dissolved into black mist, leaving nothing behind except a faint smell of burning metal. Rushed out of her room. Her eyes went wide when she saw standing there, breathing heavily, a knife in his hand. "What happened?" she asked. "We have a problem." He explained what shadow blades were: elite assassins of the hegemony, creatures that could phase through walls, become invisible, and kill without leaving evidence. They were sent only for the most important targets. "Someone wants you dead," he said, "or me, or both of us." His face was pale. "My sister, it must be Sora. She always hated me, and she was furious when you chose me." "Then we need to be careful." They were careful, set up security systems around the apartment. He kept weapons hidden in every room. He slept lightly, waking at the slightest sound. The second assassin came 3 weeks later. This one was faster than the first. It almost reached before tackled it through a window. They fell 47 floors and managed to kill the creature midair before a rescue drone caught him. The third assassin came a month after that. Killed it, but not before it left a deep wound across his chest. Spent the entire night treating his injury, her hands shaking as she applied the healing gel. "You could have died," she whispered. "But I did not. This cannot continue. They will keep sending assassins until one of them succeeds." Knew she was right, but what could they do? The hegemony would not admit to the attacks. Earth's government could not protect them without proof. They were alone. Then the fourth attack came, and it was unlike any of the others. Was summoned to military command in Seoul. General, the leader of Earth's defense forces, met him in a cold room. "Sergeant Park," the general said, "we have a problem." A screen flickered to life. It showed footage from the siege of Titan, but something was wrong. In the video was not defending against the enemy. He was attacking unarmed civilians, alien refugees, women and children. He was massacring them with a smile on his face. "This footage was sent to us by an anonymous source," the general said. "It shows you committing war crimes during the siege. The Galactic Court has already seen it. They are demanding your arrest and execution." Stared at the screen. His face was white. "That is not real," he said quietly. "I never did that. I would never do that." "The footage looks authentic. Our experts have examined it. They cannot find any evidence of manipulation." "It is a lie. Someone created it. Someone wants to destroy me." The general shook his head sadly. "I want to believe you, Sergeant. You are a hero. You saved humanity, but I have no choice. You are under arrest until we can investigate further." Guard stepped forward, did not resist. He let them put chains on his wrists and lead him away, but was not ready to give up. She returned to the apartment alone. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. For 200 years she had been told she was useless. For 200 years she had believed it, but had shown her a different truth. He had shown her that she had value, that she had strength. Now it was time to prove it. She sat down at the computer and began to watch the footage, again and again and again. She watched every frame. She studied every detail. Her perfect memory captured everything. And slowly she began to see the lies. The lighting was wrong. Titan rotated once every 16 hours and the sun angle changed constantly. But in the footage, the shadows remained consistent. That was impossible. The uniforms were wrong. Unit wore patches with a red star on the left shoulder, but the uniform in the video had the patch on the right shoulder. That was not a mistake a real soldier would make. The weapons were wrong. The rifle in the video was a Model K7, which was not deployed until 6 months after the siege ended. Could not have used it because it did not exist yet. Compiled her evidence. She organized it into a clear presentation. Then she contacted the only person she thought might listen. Han, the journalist who had written The Withered Star. What did Sergeant Park see that we cannot? They met at a small coffee shop. Was young, eager, and hungry for the truth. You believe he is innocent? Asked. I know he is innocent, replied, and I can prove it. Studied the evidence. Her eyes grew wider with each detail. This is incredible, she breathed. Someone created this footage to destroy him, but who? My sister, Princess Sara. She wants revenge for the insult she believes committed. Can you prove that? Not yet, but if we can expose the false footage, the truth will come out. Nodded slowly. I will help you, but we need to present this in a way that no one can ignore. 3 days later, stood before the Earth Military Tribunal. His hands were chained. His face was thin and tired. The trial was broadcast across both human and alien networks. Billions watched as the evidence against him was presented. Then walked into the courtroom. The crowd gasped. The withered star, the worthless princess, what was she doing here? She approached the judges with her head held high. I request permission to present evidence, she said. The judges looked at each other. This was highly unusual, but the law allowed anyone to present evidence in a tribunal. They had no choice but to agree. Began her presentation. She showed the footage frame by frame. She pointed out the impossible lighting, the wrong uniform patches, the weapons that did not exist during the siege. The crowd grew silent. The judges leaned forward. Even the alien observers seemed fascinated. Finally, turned to face the cameras. I have no psionic powers, she said. I cannot command fleets or see the future. My entire life I was told I was worthless, but I learned to see what others overlook. I learned to notice the details that everyone else ignores. That is not weakness. That is survival. That is strength. She looked directly at the screen, where the alien delegation watched. Someone created this false evidence to destroy an innocent man. Someone from the hegemony. Someone who could not accept that a human chose the worthless princess over her powerful sisters. Someone who would rather start another war than admit she was wrong. She paused. I believe that someone is my sister, Princess Sara. The courtroom exploded. The alien delegation shouted in outrage. The human crowd cheered. The judges demanded order. When silence finally returned, the lead judge spoke. We will investigate these claims thoroughly, but based on the evidence presented, we see significant doubts about the authenticity of the footage. Sergeant Park, you are released pending further investigation. The chains were removed from his wrists. He stood up slowly, his legs unsteady. Then he looked at. In that moment, no words were needed. She had saved him just as he had saved her. 2 weeks later, the investigation confirmed everything it said. The footage was fake. The evidence trail led directly to Princess Sora. The hegemony emperor, faced with undeniable proof of his daughter's crimes, had no choice but to act. Sora was stripped of her titles, her fleet, and her power. She was exiled to a distant asteroid, alone and forgotten. And across the galaxy, people began to whisper about the princess who was not so worthless after all. The Seoul Unification Memorial stood tall against the morning sky. It was a monument to peace, built after the war ended, a place where humans and aliens could gather as equals. Today, it was surrounded by cameras, reporters, and crowds of curious people. They had all come to see one thing: the press conference of Sergeant Park and Princess. The whole galaxy wanted answers. Why had he chosen her? What was his plan? How had the worthless princess become the one to save him? The rumors were endless. Some said he had seen the future. Some said he had known about her hidden powers. Some said it was all a clever political strategy. Stood at the podium looking out at the sea of faces. Stood beside him. She was different now. Her skin glowed brighter than before. Her posture was straight and confident. She no longer tried to disappear. "Thank you all for coming," began. "I know you have questions. I will try to answer them." A reporter shouted from the crowd, "Sergeant Park, is it true that you knew Princess had hidden abilities when you chose her?" Shook his head. "No, I knew nothing about her abilities. I did not even know she existed until I saw her in that throne hall." "Then why did you choose her?" another reporter called out. "Everyone said she was the weakest, the most worthless. Why pick her over princesses who controlled entire fleets?" Was quiet for a moment. He looked at and she gave him a small nod. "Do you know how I survived the siege of Titan?" he asked. The crowd fell silent. Everyone knew about the siege. It was the most famous battle of the war. "I was surrounded by 50,000 enemy soldiers. I had no reinforcements, no supplies, no hope of rescue. Every military expert said I would die within hours, but I survived for 11 days. Do you know why?" He paused. "It was not because I was the strongest soldier. There were many soldiers stronger than me. It was not because I was the best fighter. There were many fighters better than me. It was not because I was brave or smart or special." His voice grew softer. "I survived because I had spent my entire life being underestimated. When you grow up as the weakest child in a poor family, you learn things that others never learn. You learn how to endure when everyone expects you to fail. You learn how to keep fighting when everyone has given up on you. You learn how to survive." He looked out at the crowd. "When I saw Princess standing at the end of that line, I did not see a weak princess. I did not see a worthless daughter. I saw someone who had been surviving in a world that wanted her to disappear. I saw someone who had been fighting a battle no one else could see. I saw someone like me." A reporter spoke up. "But how did you know she had such abilities? How did you know she could do what she did at the tribunal?" "I did not know," admitted. "I did not choose her because of what she could do. I chose her because of who she was. I chose her because I believed in her, even before I knew her." The crowd murmured. This was not the answer they expected. They wanted a clever strategy, a hidden plan, a secret reason. But the truth was simpler than that. The truth was human. Another reporter raised his hand. "Princess, what do you have to say? How do you feel about being chosen?" Stepped forward. Her voice was clear and steady. "When I was young, my mother told me that I was a mistake. She said I should have never been born. She said I brought shame to our family. For 200 years I believed her. I believed I was worthless. I believed I had nothing to offer." She looked at. "Then this human walked into my life. He did not see a worthless princess. He saw a person. He saw me. And for the first time in my existence, I began to see myself too." She turned back to the cameras. "I did not save him at that tribunal because I am special. I saved him because he taught me that I could. He taught me that the abilities I had always hidden were not weaknesses. They were strengths. He taught me that survival is its own kind of power. A female reporter asked, "What happens now? What will you do with your future?" Smiled. It was a real smile, bright and warm. "I will stay here on Earth. I will use my knowledge to help build understanding between our species. I will prove that peace is possible, not through fear or power, but through connection, through kindness, through believing in each other." She reached out and took his hand. It was a simple gesture, but it said everything. "And I will never let anyone tell me I am worthless again." The crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, but N just stood there holding hands looking at each other. In the years that followed, became one of the most important figures in galactic diplomacy. Her perfect memory and her ability to read people made her invaluable in negotiations. She helped resolve conflicts that had lasted for centuries. She built bridges between species that had never spoken before. The hegemony emperor, who had once called her his shame, eventually sent her a message. He did not apologize. Beings like him did not apologize, but he acknowledged what she had become. He admitted that he had been wrong. Did not reply. Some wounds were too deep for words. Stayed by her side through everything. He never became a politician or a diplomat. He remained a simple man in a small apartment, but he was her anchor, her home, her proof that kindness existed in the universe. They married on a quiet evening in Seoul. There was no grand ceremony, no thousands of guests, just a few close friends and the sunset painting the sky in colors that reminded of home. "Are you happy?" asked her that night. Thought about the question. For 200 years she had not known what happiness felt like. She had known survival. She had known endurance. But happiness had always been something for other people, something for her sisters, something she was not allowed to have. "Yes," she said finally, "I am happy." They sat by the window, watching the lights of Seoul sparkle below. Flying cars drifted past. Music played somewhere in the distance. Life continued all around them, busy and loud and wonderfully chaotic. "I never thanked you properly," said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me, for believing in me, for giving me a chance to become who I was meant to be." Shook his head. "I did not give you anything. Everything you have become, you earned yourself. I just refused to look away." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know," she said, "the galaxy is still confused about why you chose me. They still think there must be some secret reason, some hidden strategy." "What do you think?" She smiled. "I think the reason is simple. You chose me because you saw me, and sometimes that is all a person needs, to be seen, to be valued, to be believed in." Was quiet for a long moment, then he laughed softly. "Maybe that is the most human thing of all," he said. "We find our strength in each other." Outside, the stars shone down on a galaxy that was slowly learning to see things differently. The war had ended, but the real work of peace had just begun. And in a small apartment in Seoul, two survivors held each other close, finally home. The galaxy had laughed when chose the weakest princess. The galaxy was not laughing anymore.